Okay, so here we're going to talk about some of the provisions of a bill in the California legislature and to make sure that you're aware of the proper terminology to use and what that terminology means. Now, while the following descriptions are probably not exhaustive, if we take a representative bill in the legislature and provide the names of those different provisions of the bill, hopefully you'll be aware of what those provisions do and the proper terminology to use when you're describing component parts of a bill. So what we start with is up top any amendments, and those are the amendment dates and the House. So it could be both houses amended in the Assembly and the Senate or vice versa. And we put the most recent amendment on top. For AB's assembly bills, they also include California legislature and the like 2023, 2024 regular session. And this is only used with AB's, not SB's. Below that, of course, is either assembly bill or Senate bill, and then the bill number, followed by the lead author, sometimes the sole author, but we can also have joint authors who are in alphabetical order after the lead author. We can have principal co-authors and co-authors listed on lines below that. And if there are principal co-authors or co-authors from the other house, those are listed after the house of origin, principal co-authors and co-authors. Below that, you find the date of introduction for the bill, followed by the title. Now, the title has the actions being taken: amend, add, repeal, or multiple variations. The code section, the code or codes being affected, and the relating clause. It'll say relating to something. The title might also include some other things like to take effect immediately because of an urgency clause or a tax levy, or making an appropriation therefore. Next, you have the subject line, which includes the bill, AB or SB, and the number, as introduced or as amended follows. And then next is the lead author's last name, and then the subject matter of the bill, which is narrower than the broader description found in the relating clause, which is contained in the title. Of course, now we're in the Legislative Council's digest. And the first thing that you get is the existing law statement, which always begins with existing law does this, imposes, includes, etc. After the objective description of existing law, we next have the this bill would statement. And so every new paragraph begins with this bill would do the following. Of course, an objective write-up of what the bill would do. The following sentences after this bill would begin the bill would. So at the beginning of the paragraph, it's this bill would, followed by any additional sentences in those paragraphs of the bill would. Then at the bottom, it says digest key, even though there are 4 digest keys. The first is is the vote. The vote key is a majority vote, 2/3, 4/5 required. Then appropriation, yes or no. Does the bill make an appropriation? Fiscal committee, yes or no, pursuant to Joint Rule 10.5, as Ledge Council determined or keyed this bill that it should be re-referred to the fiscal committee. And third is local program, yes or no. Does the bill create a state mandated local program? After that comes the bill text, and immediately following is the enacting clause. And the government code requires the following enacting clause: the people of the state of California do enact as follows. And then it puts forth the substantive provisions. Section 1 is always written out as section. You could have things like uncodified language, such as findings and declarations. And then in the next section, it's SEC period, and then 2 for section SEC period 3, SEC period 4, etc. What follows the sections are action lines. In the action line, it'll have the code section, the code, and then what is happening. Either a new section is being added, or existing law is being amended, or existing law is being repealed. And then what follows is the actual codified language that is being added, amended, or repealed. Remember, as a general rule, strikeout words are being repealed. Regular font is used in the introduced version when you are adding language. Otherwise, generally, regular font is no change to the existing statute. When you add a new statute in the introduced version, again, it's in regular font. When you're adding it later on, it's in italics. So the italicized words are those being added to an existing statute. If you're adding a new code section, again, or if you're repealing, those are in the action lines as well. And then later on in the bill, you get what are called plus sections. These could be descriptions such as the bill is a tax levy or it's an urgency clause, etc. And those, excuse me, are at the very end of the bill. And that's why we call them plus sections. And those are actual bill sections, but they're uncodified. So there isn't any action line that you're adding, amending, or repealing any statutes. And those are the main provisions of a bill. And so hopefully you understand what those provisions are and what they do and the correct terminology to use in describing the provisions of a California statute, excuse me, of a California bill.